This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Then let's get right to it. Hi, Stephen. You look like you're in a beautiful spot. Yeah. Okay. So right now it is 6:02, and I'm calling the meeting of March 9th of the Southampton Open Space Committee to order. We do have a quorum. We have Diana Fetterman, we have Ed Buckley, Janet Brown, Stephen Johnson, and myself, and Terry Ann Hogue, and myself. So there's 6 of us here. And also a guest, Bridget Likely. Thank you very much. Let's ask if there's any members of the public outside of Bridget that wish to make any comments. I don't see anybody else. So there are no public comments at this time. Review of the minutes. I'm going to defer because Bridget's our guest and I really want her to speak. Can we just do minutes a little bit later in the agenda, as well as committee reports? And let's just jump in. And Bridget and I, but Bridget primarily, will be talking about where we are with the Mountain Waters project. And also, why don't I just start by saying that we did hold we ended up holding one event at the Glendale Ridge Winery, and I was going to look up the exact date if I can find it here. That was February maybe 13th, correct? And we sent out 18 invitations. I tried to hand deliver a couple at the last minute at the suggestion of Mark and Bridget. Out of that, we had 18 people that were either landowners or family members joining us, a total of 26 people altogether, 3 people from Kestrel. And thank you very much for Stephen and Janet being able to be present from our committee. Stephen brought his wife too. That was great. And I'll talk a little bit later about the report for the neighborhood outreach grant that we got. But let's go ahead, Bridget. Go ahead and tell us what you have so far.
Yeah, so I can say, that Mark and I are actively plugging away at trying to get landowner agreement, tentative agreements nailed down. So there was quite a bit of interest after the landowner event, which led to a few private conversations and interest in moving forward with getting their land appraised so that we could put together an offer and a budget for them. And so Mark has spoken with the appraiser, Bob O'Connor, who we work with very frequently. And he is working currently on a number of appraisals for prospective landowners. And he should have that this week or next week. Because of the time crunch with the deadline of April 18th, he's really just doing preliminary assessments and getting like a basic value for each of these properties. These can be turned into full narrative appraisals at a later date, but just to give the landowner a starting point for discussions. So we should have those again next week or the following to bring to several landowners. So that's, in a good place in terms of partners. We have quite a number of partners who have expressed interest. Holyoke Water has expressed interest in a number of parcels that overlap with the reservoir protection zones. Mass Wildlife has expressed interest in one of the properties. And then Mark has a meeting tomorrow with Mass Audubon, who may be interested as well. So we're really eager to kind of pair these parcels up with an appropriate partner, including the town of Southampton. We would like Kestrel and town of Southampton to be the 2 main partners on the application. And so I think what we'll need to do is determine, if the landowners agree which parcels are the town most interested in. Do they want to own and feed? Do they want to hold a CR? And then we'll need to get that approval from the Conservation Commission and the Select Board. And that approval will come in the form of a letter to include in the application.
So Bridget, you had emailed me and you mentioned a letter of commitment. Is that the same letter that you're referring to?
Yes. So yeah, I had thought this meeting was going to be in person, and I only just realized it was Zoom today. And so I printed out examples of what that letter can look like. But basically, it's just coming from the select board saying that, we permit the Conservation Commission to apply for funding through this grant. And if they're awarded, the Conservation Commission is committing to acquiring either the CR or the fee of the following parcels. So we'll need to have a firm idea of what those properties are, and some idea of the value.
Okay. While we're on that one point, I have had a little communication with the chairperson of our Conservation Commission. I do know that we need to meet with them at some point. Their next meeting is March 20th. Is that right, Diana? March 20th, Monday, the 20th.
Sorry, I don't know.
Okay, I believe so. And I do know that they had an extremely full agenda on the 6th. It's possible that we could be on for the 20th, but is it going to cut it too close if we don't get on until the 3rd of April? It's kind of tight.
That would depend when the next select board meeting would be. If we get the approval we need, April 3rd, can we then bring that to the select board for them to?
Okay, really tight, right. I will ask our chairperson I will ask Marla Hank if we can be on the agenda for March 20th.
Okay.
And I know that particular commission has met by Zoom, and I've also heard that the governor is going to eliminate Zoom as an official way to hold meetings. I haven't got a confirmation on this. I've just heard this, effective the end of March. So my assumption would be that the meeting of the 20th of March with the Conservation Commission would be a Zoom meeting. If thereafter that, it would, if it was later, it would have to be a live meeting at the town hall. And
Marla just forwarded an email from the state, and they're considering extending it.
Oh,
Zoom.
goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I do know that Marla has really, preferred.
Yeah, she would be interested in that.
Thank you for that. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, that's an update. Wonderful. Okay, so anyway, I'll keep you informed, Bridget, about whether we can meet with Concom on the 20th or whether it has to be later. Now, select board. Go ahead. Who was speaking? Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah. So this is exciting, really great news. And for those of us who have been at least peripherally involved, and in light of the fact that you're going public to the select board, I'm really curious. The number of landowners who have responded and are proceeding to appraisal, or even a list, since it appears that the select board, as soon as the meeting following March 20th Concom, and maybe the Concom will see a list of landowners. If this is an advisory board, we ought to know what we're advising.
Yes. I do have maps and a tentative list that I can share. I'm just always trying to be respectful of what's appropriate to share and what is not.
Is it correct that this is a presentation that will be specific about landowners at the point that it goes to the select board?
Yes.
Or sooner with the Concom?
Yes. Yeah. Certainly for both the Concom and the select board will need to be specific with the landowners.
All right. So I don't know which of those two boards we specifically advise, but all right. More than
well, let me answer that, Stephen. Let me just answer that quickly. We were initially ad hoc to the select board. We're not ad hoc any longer, but we we report to select board. We don't report to Concom. If just to answer that, we work, in a coordinated collegial fashion with Conservation Commission, but we don't advise them. We advise the select board. That answers one question. So we're going to ask something else. You're muted, Stephen.
Yeah, I thought Bridget got it. It's number of landowners going to appraisal, or a list, or a map that shows the ones that are active as opposed to the many that were potential.
Well, I can start off. Let me talk about the number of appraisals. Let me tally really quick.
And what kind of support would you like from this committee going
Yes.
forward?
No, I mean, ideally, I would like to share and understand, based on the Open Space Committee's understanding of the land and the Open Space and Recreation Plan and knowledge of Conservation Commission's interest, which properties the town would be most interested in holding an interest. So I can go ahead and share a landowner map. I just didn't want to do that without getting the okay, I think, from Cindy and the Open Space Committee as a whole.
So Bridget, the map you have, does it have names on it at this point?
It does have names on it.
Okay. So have you gotten permission from individuals that they know that they'll be discussed at an open meeting? Because we are being recorded.
Yes, no, I understand that. And certainly some of these landowners are okay with it, but I could not say all of them are. And I wish I had a map that did not have landowners on it at the moment. I could work on that, but.
Okay, so I think for the time being, I would prefer you didn't post that right now. And, the idea being, if they're committed, if any landowner is, sort of signing on either preliminarily or just, showing interest, please be sure and say that means that your name may be brought up at a public meeting. Okay.
Yes, no, absolutely. It's with this rush timeline, it's been a bit hard to move the landowner negotiations along in conjunction with everything we need to do to present to the town. So I'll certainly keep that in mind in advance of the Conservation Commission meeting and, of course, the Select Board meeting. But for now, I can share that. Let's see, 1, 2, 4, 5. About 6 landowners we're seeing as a priority to get appraised. And so they're currently in the docket with Bob O'Connor. And then we certainly have backups as well that could be added. And so we're really just trying to get as many landowners as possible in this application as appropriate.
Some landowners have more than one parcel. So I'm assuming one landowner is one landowner, even if the landowner or his family has more.
Correct. Yeah. So 6 landowners is we're looking at getting appraised, not just 6 parcels. Okay.
Was there another question, Stephen?
Rather large bequest. I heard Russellville Road neighborhood.
You know what? You're garbled. I don't know what's going on. It's perhaps technologically. Try again. We didn't catch that.
That's not uncommon.
Okay.
I had heard through the grapevine that there was. Oh, I'm sorry. This is premature. I'm very sorry.
Okay. We'll keep things open. Can you tell us, Bridget, based on the 6 landowners and some having perhaps one or more parcels, what number of acres you are? Have you had that opportunity to total that?
Give me one moment to see if I can pull up Mark's spreadsheet that he's created. That might have that total acreage there. I apologize for that. I think we're looking at if every landowner went through, I want to say it was like in the 700 range. But again, that's all, things can fall out and come back in again. And so that's certainly a great number, but it is an optimistic number.
Okay, well, it's more than 250.
Yes.
You're pretty confident that the 250 will be met at this point, I think, hopefully.
Yeah, we're focusing on the core, of course, and getting that 250 at minimum.
Okay. And I know that you and I have communicated, and Mark have communicated a little bit by email about approaching some people. Maybe one landowner couldn't attend, doesn't even live in the state, and the other attended, but I know you were going to do a customized letter.
Yes, both those letters are going out. Mark has worked on them today. So
okay, great. Is it possible to either be blind copied or copied on these letters?
Yeah, I'll let Mark know.
Yeah, great. Great. I mean, obviously, we all have a great interest, and I have a particular passion for seeing this thing go through. So that's great. Let's see, what else can we ask you? I think the big
Mass Wildlife and the Holyoke Water and Audubon, they might be interested. Is that the case?
Yes. There's some concern with Mass Wildlife in particular, if they can get the approval they need in time to be an official partner, because they really need a firm commitment at the time of the application grant, and their lands committee isn't meeting until the next fiscal year. And so we're looking to see if we can have, a backup partner to list on the application instead. And then should they approve it at a later date, we can fill them in instead. But the other two, Holyoke Water certainly is very interested. And then we'll have more word on Mass Audubon after tomorrow.
Very good. Thank you.
Great question, Terry. Who else has questions right now?
I think it's a chance just to introduce something. It's another email from Concom, and I don't think it would help with this grant, but there's a small, it's called Conservation Assistance for Small Communities Grant Program. And what they do is provide for towns of 7,000 or fewer, the preparation of property appraisals. So I think it's important to know, especially if any of us become assessors, that's out there, that grant program that will provide money for appraisals. Probably Bridget knows about it already, and it's a rolling first come, first serve, no deadlines, but could be good to know in the future.
Bridget, we don't currently have a need for anybody else to pay for the appraisals. This is correct? This is covered by Kestrel right now?
Yes, it's covered by Kestrel right now. It's always nice in the future, to consider that as an option if it's needed. But no, we're good. We're good at appraisal.
I didn't even know it existed, so I just thought I'd shout it.
Yeah, that's great. Stephen, were you trying to speak? I'm sorry.
To clarify, it's been clarified.
Right. So I think the critical question for our committee is to know what we can do to keep things rolling, to support this. What are the expectations on the part of Kestrel for what the Open Space Committee can be doing or should be doing?
I think, just once we have those numbers, am I correct in saying you won't be meeting before the next Conservation Commission meeting, correct?
Repeat that question.
There won't be another meeting of the Open Space Committee before the Conservation Commission.
There is none unless we call one, and I doubt that we will do that.
Okay. But if someone could be there, I guess. Yeah.
Well, we have a rep right now. Diana is one of the reps from Concom, and I would absolutely plan to be there. At this point, let me insert something. Stephen, are you talking? Because I think you have that funny noise coming out again. if you're trying to talk, we have to try one more time to hear you.
Sorry. I have a flaky connection. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think, we'll just keep everyone informed as the landowner negotiations proceed, and hopefully we'll have our presentation put together by the 20th for the Conservation Commission with a proposal.
Are you primarily looking at the parcels that are owned by landowners who are showing some interest that are related to the greater northwest corner of Southampton versus, I know there were at least a couple landowners whose properties were not quite in that same location. And I wonder, I really don't want anything to just be ignored. I mean, if any interest was shown, I at least want some kind of follow-up. And it might be that we as a town, if we're interested in those additional properties outside of this, I think Mark used the term satellite properties. What is going to happen with that? I know of at least two landowners that want to know something. And I suppose offline we should be clear as to what you're doing with certain landowners who attended. And I think you know who those people are. They attended three that I could think of, three that are not part of this. So is that part of your discussions with Mark at this point? Those satellite?
Yes. There are some we are considering a priority, but that they haven't been taken off the table by any means.
Okay, that's good to know. Very good to know. We have to do some follow-up with a couple of them. And I did have a conversation with Marla a few days ago. And as you may know, Conservation Commission has long expressed an interest in a property, any property really, that could serve as a location for a parking lot for the Great Mountain Trail, which is at the end of Wolcott Road. And we invited, I know Stephen did follow up on one of the property owners, and Diana did follow up on another to see if they would attend, and they did not. But another one did. That's a little bit further away than Great Mountain Trail. That's the one that also owns property in Montgomery. So there is that parcel. So
yes, yeah, and they're in the first round of appraisals that we're doing. And that Southampton parcel is part of it as well. And yes, our thought was that would be something the town would be interested in. So that'll certainly be included.
Okay, great. Okay. Stephen, I think you might be trying to talk. I will mute. Everybody mute except for.
Yeah, you effectively muted yourself, Cindy, before you finished the instructions. But thank you. I hope you can hear me. Bridget, did you have a chance to follow up with the owners of Glendale Winery?
Yes, I did follow up with them.
Thank you.
We had a good conversation. I don't think I can speak further to it right now, but I'm certainly in contact with them.
Thank you. Just making sure the balls got fielded.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for making that connection.
Okay, so select board, I happen to know, as you probably can figure out, is in the midst of the budget process. So I'll be in touch with the chair and also with our town administrator to find out when we can be on the agenda and point out that this is not something that we can put off too many weeks. So I'll be in touch back with you on that for attending. Their meetings are on Tuesdays, usually. I happen to know they have one tonight because of the snowstorm. They had to reschedule it. So we'll just kind of keep informed about that, Bridget. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. The good news is we have kept the select board at least peripherally informed about what we're doing, and we're getting support. It's, so that's good. Any other questions from anybody for Bridget before we let her go? Let me look at my list too. So if somebody has another question for Bridget. Why don't you just,
I just wondered, was the Concom interested in that parcel that is the closest one that we have any hope for right now to Great Mountain Trail?
the chair couldn't speak for the whole commission. It will have to go to a meeting.
Okay.
I don't have a
Okay.
question, but I just want to thank Kestrel for all they're doing, and you guys are doing a great job, and much appreciated.
It's been a really good team effort. I was really impressed with how that landowner event came together. Largely thanks to Cindy and all of you. So thank you again.
I will say it really was a very inspiring evening. And I'm glad Stephen and Janet could go. Kestrel had their act together, very big, very much so. Bridget started off, and then Elizabeth Roplika, who was a consultant with them, spoke. Some of you know her. Perhaps she's an attorney, but she's really expert at discussing options for landowners. And then Mark wrapped it up, and the wine was great. And I think the food was pretty great. A kind of a tinfoil presentation, but better than nothing at all. And I know Janet did a lot of work to coordinate that. So happy Valentine's Day, because it happened on Valentine's Day, and it was good. And Janet or Stephen, do you want to make any specific comments about the event on Valentine's Day? Go ahead, Janet. Are you trying to speak, Janet? Because we're not hearing you. Oops, she muted again. Okay. Stephen, did you want to?
Well done.
Good. It was great. Okay. I guess that's it then. So, Bridget, we'll maintain contact as we do. I am not traveling between now and any of this. I'm really intending to just whatever you need, please let us know
Okay.
as soon as possible. And I'm very interested in those two people that you said Mark's working on the letters for.
We are too.
I know you are, but having made contact with both, it's passionate for me to get those done, get them on board, really.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bridget. See you later. Okay. Very exciting for all of us, I think. The neighborhood outreach grant that we were awarded to cover the cost of that event is we've got all the receipts in. Everything's at the town accountant, and we are well within our date expectation. I'm going to just ask you to let me tell my son that I'm in the middle of a meeting. 1 second, please. Rory, I'm in a meeting. Can I call you back? Okay, bye. So what we need to do is have everything. We certainly have our events done in time, and that was the deadline for that was April 15th. We have to have all bills submitted back to to the people that are giving us the grant, which is actually through Mass DCR, I think. And then a final report is due in May, and I will work on that. And Janet, I think you agreed to help me with the financial part of that to be sure we have everything done. I'm pretty sure Bradley just needs to pull together a report and also give us copies of the receipts that he was provided. So I believe everybody's been paid at this point. That's for sure. So if you and I can talk offline about that and any help you can help me with that. Is that okay? Jan, I don't know if you're talking, but I can't hear you tonight. I guess not. I know she's unmuted, so I don't know if she's trying to speak. Okay. I, for one, will be happy when we don't have to do Zoom anymore. Moving on then. Let's go back to review of minutes. And I've got screen share available. Did everybody have an opportunity to review the minutes that were emailed out? And if there's no discussion, if anybody wants to make a motion
So move.
to accept, I assume that's what you're moving.
A
Anybody?
second.
Okay, great. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say your last name and I.
Fetterman, aye.
Buckley, aye.
Hoag, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Palmer, I think that's it, right? That's okay, great. Thank you very much. So I will stop that share. Then the next thing is committee reports. Let me begin with planning board. There is going to be a hearing, a public hearing on April 5th, and that is for a new subdivision that's being proposed for an address we refer to as Zero College Highway. It's kind of a little bit north and across the street from the Cumberland Farms. It's owned by Eugene and James Labrie. And if anybody wishes to attend, it's 7 p.m. at Town Hall. It's a live public hearing. It's quite an extensive proposal for a subdivision. And I urge anybody to attend. This land was in Chapter 61, was removed, and therefore the town does not have a right of first refusal on that land. So that's my report from the planning board. If you have any questions, I urge you to attend the public hearing. And I will add one more thing, because I'm also on the Public Safety Building Committee, that the owners of that property have verbalized that they are willing to donate a portion of that parcel for a public safety building. That is far from complete. The whole idea of a public safety building is a long ways away. So I can't say whether or not that will be the site that will be selected. And then if you've driven by there, you can see that the parcels that are on the road are commercially zoned and are for sale right now. I don't know the status of any sale of them. So it's a big thing for our town. I don't know. Anyway, attend if you wish. That's all I have from planning board. Is there any?
Cindy,
Yes.
are the subdivision plans available on the town website?
I'm not sure if they are, Stephen, but I can forward them all to you. They came to me in an email as a planning board member. So I will do that so you all have a chance to see them per the email. My suspicion is that they will be available on the town website, but I don't want anybody held up from not being able to see them. So I will email them out to the entire committee. Okay.
Is there any problem with the subdivision? I mean, is it going to be on the aquifer or anything, or is it good to go?
It is over the aquifer.
Oh, okay.
So
So
I
it's,
hope that the Water Commission has a presence at the public hearing.
I was just wondering, because
A
I
good
think the
question.
farmland around there is very concerned about it.
I suspect it'll be a well-attended public meeting, and I really urge you to mention it to anybody that you think may have an interest in attending. Okay, bring anybody along. Let's move on. Diana, do you have anything else from Conservation Commission?
Only that yesterday the commission received the okay from the CPC for an additional funds for the bridge in Manhan Meadows. And I don't think there's anything else going on with open space that I know of. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Janet, you and I and Diana were all at CPC last night. Do you want to speak anything more about what else occurred at CPC? I don't know, Janet's possibly having some microphone problems because I haven't heard her voice yet. And Janet, let me just see if you've tried to text me or anything. It doesn't matter. Let me just see. So I'm going to just do one other report of another proposal that was brought before CPC, and that was for additional money to do the engineering for the Greenway. And that was also approved by CPC and will be on the town warrant, as will the one that Diana just mentioned. And the third one that was presented was a proposal from Parks Commission, as well as a group of citizens who wish to see an accessible playground at Labrie Field. So that also was passed to go on the warrant. So that are three things that I believe will be on the town warrant. Oops, Janet did just send me an email. She just said nothing to report from CPC other than what we already said, I'm pretty sure. Thanks, Janet. All right, moving on. We don't have any representative from the select board here tonight, nor do we have anyone from assessors, and we don't have anyone from parks. And those are three other committees that are part of our open space committee. Also under old business, it was requested that we submit a report to the annual town report. And Diana did the report on that. It was really lovely. Thank you. I don't have a copy of it in front of me right now for sharing, but if anybody wants, we can forward that. But more importantly, it will be published when that annual town report is published. So again, I want to say thank you, Diana, for doing that nicely. On old business also, we've been carrying this through meeting after meeting, and that's the committee charge. And we finally do have an actual committee charge. And I'm sharing it right now. I'm not expecting you to read it verbatim. Mostly it's exactly what we've had previously. It is now signed, as you can see at the bottom, by the 5 select board members. It's been around since last September, but somehow got misplaced somewhere. So we now have this. The only other important point to make about this is that the section 2 regards the terms of each person, and of the 3 at-large members, 1 term is for 1 year, 1 is for 2 years, and 1 is for 3 years. What I don't know is who on this group. We have 3 at-large members. That's Terry Ann, Ed, and Stephen. And so I'm going to have to get back to you as to which one of you was designated for a 1-year term, which for 2 years, and which for 3 years. You might know that from when you were sworn in at your at the town clerk's office. I'm not asking you to go scrambling for that little card right now, but that might be there. So I will be checking up on that and letting people know what the terms are. I'm going to add.
I'm afraid I have to go now, Cindy, and just go report to the other committee. So is there anything else that you think you need from me? A vote or anything?
I guess just one question, Diana. We are going to get on to the 2023 goals. Were there any goals that you want to make sure were at least considered?
Well, my favorite projects to try to.
I'd rather not guess. Do you want to verbalize what your favorite projects are?
Well, the Hendrick land and
so this is the land next to Clearwater.
Clearwater, yes. And the Beagle Club next to Clearwater.
Okay.
And a parking lot, some kind of land for a parking lot on Great Mountain Trail.
Okay. Yep.
Here, here. Thank you. Thank you, Diana, all three.
Yeah, I'm with you on those as well. Okay, anything else that's not specific land acquisition, Diana?
I just can't really think right now.
Okay, you got a lot going on. Thank you a lot, and I'll be talking to you soon. All right.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Mm-hmm. Bye.
Okay. So I was about to say that when we talk about committees in general, you may know that right now there's an opportunity for people to run or take out papers to be on the ballot for the various towns committees and commissions. I have been on the planning board for 5 years, and I'm not going to renew my term. I'm not going to run again. That is a big thing. Not that they're not losing me as much as not having somebody. So nobody has taken out papers for planning board, and there's 2 open spots, and nobody has taken out papers for select board, and there's 2 open spots. So if anyone knows anyone who has, especially in planning board, who's an engineer or had some kind of expertise that would be of benefit to our town if they were on the planning board, you could talk to me, you could talk to the chair, you could urge those to go. We lost an excellent person just a few months ago because she moved out of town, but she was an engineer and a super contributor, and that was Sarah Stein. So that's an important plug. But on top of that, I am running for the Board of Assessors because we never can get an assessor on the Open Space Committee. And if I leave planning board, I'm not on this committee anymore because I am appointed from the planning board. So
I run for select person.
No way. I'm not going to do that. I really, I'm a behind the scenes coordinator kind of person. And I do a lot. I'm on several other boards and committees, and I'm not going to run for select board. But we need good people for that. We're working on trying to find people. So I'm running for Board of Assessors. And I think Janet, again, we can't hear her, but I think you're rerunning for CPC.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yay, we can hear you.
I did a bunch of adjustments. Thank you. Yes. Okay, good. Yes, I have put the papers in. So we'll see what happens.
How many years have you been on CPC, Janet? Because I know you've been.
Not 22 like Virginia. I can't really remember, maybe 10 or 12. But on a side note, I was trying to speak while ago, and I guess you couldn't hear me, but on the minutes, it says recorded, which I will change.
Thank you. That's a good point.
Okay.
They were, I thought I recorded them, so you didn't do anything wrong, but they just didn't.
At the time, it was right, but I can change that. Okay.
Thank you for doing that, Janet. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
But if you get on the assessors, you can still be appointed by them to this committee. Correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
That was my strategy.
So we won't lose you.
Well, I don't want to lose this because I'm committed to this. But we need to spread that word, and I'm spreading it. So if you know anybody who's interested, and boy, it's not all about retirees in this town, but unfortunately it is about retirees. We need to get some of the younger people, but they've always got reasons like jobs and families that keep them from committing too much. And I do understand. Okay. So the next important piece of business is our goals for 2023. And I'm going to let you, Janet, speak about the goals that you mentioned. And this is a blank screen. Hold on. So I can actually type in this, I think, while we're talking. And we can just do bullet points. But Janet, do you want to mention the goals that you had put forth?
Yes. Well, first of all, what did you think of them? My 2 goals.
The one of them had to do with updating the brochures for our town owned conservation parcels. I absolutely think it's critical. However, there's 2 things that come to mind. Is it consistent with our charge? And secondly, and I do believe it falls under Conservation Commission. On the other hand, they haven't been able to do it for a while. But the second part of it is the cost. And we don't, I'm not sure that this is the right use of our budget. I don't know where else we could get the money. So what I'd like to do is put this down as a goal and have you, Janet, do some research to find out more about does it fall under Conservation Commission? We already lost Diana tonight. And also, how would it be paid for? And I think if you can just find out some more information, that would be helpful to us.
Okay, I'll do that. But maybe that answers the question of why we use Pioneer Valley Planning to produce this one that we have. As you can see, it says that they did the brochure.
Are you talking about the one with the aquifer? Which one?
It just says Conservation Lands of Southampton, Massachusetts, and it's bigger than a number 10 envelope. And on the right hand, it says Catalyst for Regional Progress, PVPC. It's really big. It's bigger than it needs to be, and it's outdated.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about that outside of the meeting, because the planning board has a representation for Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. I'm not sure who it is right now. It might be Dan LaValle or not. I'm not sure. But let me kind of look into that a little bit with you, and then we can come back with that. What was your second recommended goal? I can't remember.
It's just maybe we could recommend or suggest hiking a couple of trips a year, maybe in the spring and the fall, not in the summer, not in the wintertime when there's snow, on a different open space area each time, and have it conducted by someone who knows something about the actual land, or like on Glendale, or just different areas. Maybe have it conducted by one of our members a couple of times a year, and then maybe either begin or end with a kind of a reception at Conant Park and tell people what they're going to see or what they have seen. I just thought it might be a nice way to introduce our open space lands to the town.
I think it's a great idea, and I think we've talked about this. So let's keep that on as a goal. And by the way, if anybody wants to comment on any of this as we're proceeding, please let me know. And does anyone else want to throw out any goals? Terry Ann, you've got good ideas.
You gave an assignment to us.
I can't see anybody's face right now because I'm typing. Anybody else want to offer any? Stephen, do you have any ideas for goals for our committee?
This is Stephen. Do you want to help get Diane's goals down?
Sure. Well, I will do that.
Okay.
I'll do that. I'm not going to put names down.
Right. Okay. Understand.
Yeah.
Clearwater and Great Mountain.
Okay.
So
Okay.
all of these, I think, are excellent. I just wanted to cycle back to the very first brochures. Pioneer Valley Planning Commission is an excellent resource. Two others that I would mention. You're more than halfway married to Kestrel right now, and they have as good or better mapping resources and overlap of interest. And yeah, there might be a fee involved, but not more than you'd pay to PVPC. And the other one is the Conway School of Ecological Design in Northampton. And if this is familiar to everyone, I won't give the speech. And I'm no longer a board member, so I don't have to give the speech. But it's a master's in ecological planning, like a landscape architecture degree in a compressed one-year format. And they do community projects at below market rates. So the brochures is perhaps not the best application, but it was by extension. Kestrel, I think, really would have the overlap of interest. Conway might help us with, okay, let's go there. A pollinator garden.
This is super. And this is,
Shall I
this
pass
is
with that, Cindy?
repeat that because I spoke over you, Stephen. What'd you say?
I thought that that was a good segue because we covered the very first bullet point. Conway is perhaps a better match to the pollinator garden. If you want to speak about that, that's the segue. Otherwise, I simply yield the floor.
I'm not really prepared to speak about it tonight, other than to say it's underway. And one of the members of that Good Earth Gardening group that I'm part of now has already proposed that we contact Conway School. So it's on our radar, absolutely. And did I hear you just say you used to be on the board? Is that right?
That is correct.
Wow, cool. Okay, I didn't know they were in East Hampton. I thought they were in Conway.
They certainly were for decades, but they have migrated, and I won't do the whole gory detail, but they've located at Hospital Hill or Village Hill, I guess, you know.
But that's Northampton, Hospital Village.
Correct.
Oh, so I have it
Quite
wrong.
nearby.
Okay.
Oh, well, they did have their little stint in East Hampton, but I vowed not to talk about very detail.
Oh, all right. Well, where is it now? Northampton or East Hampton? Where is it now?
Northampton.
Okay, great. So I got it right here. This
And
is
didn't they
Absolutely.
contact us last year about wanting to work with us?
I don't believe it was last year. If
They may have.
Yeah,
They
I
did?
think they did. Yeah.
they did, okay. Well, it should be on the goals. We should just be sure we're not missing some great opportunity there. So this is just to sort of draft out some goals. Good, thanks. Keep going. Ed, do you have any suggestions?
I don't really have a suggestion. It's more like I have a question. It's like, because a lot of these trails that we have in town, they're open to hiking and obviously snowshoeing in the wintertime. But is there anyone responsible for making sure the parking areas are accessible, that you can actually park if you wanted to go snowshoeing?
You mean accessible because of snow, that they weren't plowed?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's just, for instance, on Monday, I went down Former Road just to do some hiking off some of the trails down there. And town's responsibility, but there was no areas to pull off the road, period. But I figure as a backup, I would go around Searles Pond area. And that, unless you had a pickup truck, it was not accessible whatsoever. So it's just like for the general public, if anyone was interested in snowshoeing, they couldn't park to begin with.
I will tell you, in the past, I have seen where our highway department has plowed those parking lots, whether it be at the Wolf Hill Sanctuary, is the one I think you're talking about.
Yeah,
up here on Glendale Road, which is Clearwater. I have seen plows that have cleared out the parking lot. I can't speak for this week, and I don't know the answer, but we could ask Randall. He's a very easy man to work with, but I know he's had some hiring issues, and I don't know where that stands right now. But we can certainly ask him about it. And I loved hiking in the Wolf Hill Sanctuary in the snow. I did it a couple of years ago all by myself, and I was on snowshoes, and I mean, it is so glorious to go down there, isn't it? Oh, gorgeous.
Is there any way to get the Friends of Open Space involved in this, the brochure thing, or any of the things that we do? Or what do they do?
I will tell you, I had a conversation with Doric, who is part of the Friends group. A few weeks ago, he was at the library. Chris Fowles was part of the conversation. I think they're always in some sort of reorganization place, and I can't speak for them. I love the idea, Janet. Everybody asks that question. How can we involve the Friends? It is a 501c3 organization. I think fundraisers was going to happen at some point. I hope so. I think it's marvelous. And I should reach out again, or if any of you know any of the people who are on the board, they do have a website, fosos.org, if you want to look at it. I don't know when it was last updated. It might be updated right now. But I do think that there are people that care a lot about our trails, and they might be interested in some of these things. Remember, they are the ones that purchased and installed the sign at the Hendrick property that the Ted and Paula Hendrick property that was acquired within the last 12 months. That was a project that was taken over by Friends of Southampton Open Space. So let's put that down there, and I'll put to coordinate activities. Okay. What else?
That's great. And I just want to underscore what you said about their ability as you didn't say this. They are a 501c3, and they can raise funds in ways that, as a municipal committee, I think we don't have the same flexibility. Or
it's not even flexibility. We can't do it. Yeah.
Okay. So if they have the, let's say, capacity, legally, they have the authority to raise funds and apply them like this. And question is anybody doing anything around Earth Day? If, in my mind, they're the populist arm and we're the strategic arm of open space interest in town, Earth Day is when you get a lot of people involved, and both the Friends and we have an interest in getting people involved.
Do you happen to know the date for 2023?
No, but April 22 is.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll put that down. You're right.
And also, the Friends have access to the funds that have been donated to Kestrel, which always is a quandary to me, but they do have access to those funds that have been donated.
They may be gone at this point. They may have used those funds for the sign. I don't know.
Hendrick sign, possibly.
Yeah, I don't know. This isn't.
We can find out.
You know, I know my husband and I make a donation to FOSOS every year because we have to use our minimum distribution for, at some point in the year, and we always make a modest donation.
And I donate to Kestrel too. So
I know you do. Yeah.
So
okay. And we're not alone. I know of a couple of other people in town who really care about conservation and have made generous donations to FOSOS. So the question is, are they actively trying to raise money? Because it's important. This is a public meeting, what we're saying right now. So if somebody's watching this or watches the tape later on, please understand that there is this organization available if you want to make donations. Okay.
Yeah, Cindy, I don't want to preach, but there are two different kinds of capital. And the contributions of cash to FOSOS, I trust will go to the very most important and local purposes. But beyond that, the human capital of coming out and hiking, like Ed was talking about, or perhaps it was Janet, organized activities, particularly if there's a service component to it, like typically happens around Earth Day. That's the thread through it, and that's enough from me.
I think it's important, Stephen, that bring people out. How about this? Some of these overlap. Okay.
Are we going to have a table at the Celebrate Southampton this year?
Well, that's a big question. Is that a goal we want to do again?
We did it last year.
Yeah,
sure.
We've had it 2 years so far.
Good.
I'll put that down as a goal. That is going to occur August. I have the
13,
date.
12, I think.
Is the 12th a Friday night? I didn't have my calendar in front of me.
So Friday is the 11th.
Okay, so Saturday the 12th is the sort of big day event, right?
I think so. It's the middle of the month. 19th. Yeah, I think it's the middle of the month.
I believe it's the 12th. And I'll tell you right now, remember I drove all the way back from vacation last year? I'm not going to be able to do that this year. I'm not, because I'm going to have family with me on vacation. So
why not?
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just put that down. And then I have a goal, and that is to, and I'd like to get some volunteers to help me among this committee to look at our, wait a minute, here, I'm going to say this, evaluate our open space and recreation plan. Wait a sec here. And recreation plan and our master plan to determine what conservation properties, what properties not yet conserved should be considered. Okay, so I believe that we're missing some. That's what I think. Now we're looking at this Mountain Waters project. That's very big. It's very much focused on a particular part of town, which is important. But there was at least one property owner who attended the meeting at the winery, whose property is absolutely gorgeous. It's on the absolute opposite side of the town. And he said to me, we're going to miss some stuff here because they are being very heavily approached by developers. And if that's what they want to do with their land, it's going to be sold. If that's not what the families or the property owners want, then we should be supporting them in their goals. So I'm going to ask for maybe 2 volunteers. We can't have a quorum if we're going to meet as a group. But if there's 2 volunteers that wish to approach sitting down with me and looking at the open space and recreation plan and the master plan to look at, see how it's been written. And therefore we can quote some consistency with what we've got in those two very important documents. So you can be thinking about who would like to volunteer to help on that. So that's the goal I have.
I would help with that.
Yay, Terry, thanks.
Yeah. I'll just familiarize myself with the map here on the atlas.
Okay, and I'll familiarize you. I will familiarize you with the monstrous, the big fat documents. They really are big.
Yeah.
I was on both committees. It's fine.
Yeah.
You'll get through it. It's very interesting reading, actually. And that's how I met Stephen, because he said he read the whole thing cover to cover. And by the way, can I meet with him and have coffee? Remember, Stephen? So any other goals we want to add? I mean, we don't have to have any more than this. This is quite a bit right here. So, I mean, we can also look at this again at another meeting.
I don't have any more goals. This is Janet. And I didn't write all this down. So when I send the minutes to you, can you send this to me and I'll incorporate it into the minutes?
Happy to, more than happy to. Let me do this as a,
and then send it to me or add it later on. The other thing is, while you couldn't hear me, you asked if I would help you with the budget, and I will.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Great. Okay.
Hey, I'm sorry, Cindy, before we leave this, we ought to throw something in here about the bike path greenway. That's so important.
What do you have in mind? Because there's such an active and involved committee going forward on that. What do you think open space could do with that?
Moral support. I don't know. Who are the movers on that?
You should go. You should consider attending one of the Greenway Committee meetings. Now
They're looking for members.
Well, you can decide whether you want to join it, but they have a phenomenal chairperson, and then they have at least 3 other committee members that I know of that are very, very involved. In fact, at CPC last night, one of them spoke. Is his name Mark Cassis? Is that his name, Janet? Mark
Cassis and Ellen Gingras. Yeah.
And they are very involved, and we have
Erin Tauscher is the chairperson.
That's right. The good news is that $6 million is earmarked for Southampton for the building of that greenway. It won't come out, it's state money. It won't come out until 2025. But as far as you and I are concerned, that's like next week, right? Because we've lived long lives and these years just pass by so quickly so far.
Well, so I knew that we were hardwired for the design money, and that was a pretty significant commitment of CPC and more state and federal. So this is all excellent. I just wanted to give them the acknowledgement that we appreciate what they're doing.
Do you think, can you consider, Stephen, maybe just going on to mytowngovernment.org and finding out when one of the meetings is going to be held? And just
our next meeting is March the 23rd on the second floor town hall meeting room.
Are you on that committee?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm sorry, Janet.
That's okay.
Yay.
March the 23rd, second floor town hall.
What
No
time?
wonder. You know everything. You're in the middle of everything.
7 o'clock.
7 p.m. Okay. So
God. Thank you, Janet. Thank you. I mean,
because
yes.
I like the idea of open space submitting a letter of support, just doing it. So maybe between you and Janet, you can, sort of draft out what that letter should say, if you don't mind. If I agree, it's a very important job to do that.
Course.
So
And
I will.
If we do coordinate these walks that I thought would be fun to do, the walking on the rail trail is really fun. The tracks are still there and the crossbars and everything, but it's not finished, but it's our property now and it's legal to walk on it. And it's a fun walk.
I would love to do that with you.
But Janet, I have to say, I tried to do that and I could only do it from one end that ended up on Gun Road. Is that where you started, on the Coleman?
We started at Coleman, where the left side goes to East Hampton, the right hand side goes to Southampton.
Yeah.
And Mark Cassis and, Dan McNichol, the three of us did it. And they went on. I had to get back, but it goes all the way down to Sheldon's.
But the problem is, I did it and I stopped at Gun Road where the bridge goes across the road,
Uh-huh.
And then I got my car, went back and went in from the other side where the Manhattan Meadows Sanctuary is.
Uh-huh.
And I could only go 30 feet before a very large tree. And then I kind of got around that big tree, but then I kept going and I realized I couldn't go very far.
Did you go down on the rail trail going towards Sheldon's from East?
I did, and the same thing happened. It was a very big tree. So it's you're right. The town now has ownership on that, but it's not easy to do it.
It's not. It's really not. And the big, what did I say? A raccoon. It was huge, and I didn't know if he was going to run after me or not. But no, it's a fun walk. I really do. Because the and I understand the railroad wants to take up the tracks. So I don't know how that's going to affect us, or when they're going to take up the tracks, or what.
Okay.
It's kind of fun to walk it.
Great. Okay, can we just keep going? It's already at 7:15. So I don't want to cut short. If anybody has any more goals, and you could put this in the minutes, Janet, that this is a working document. And if anyone wants to add to it, we'll go forward on it. But I always feel like we should put goals down that are achievable, not just pie in the sky kinds of things.
Do you think these are pie in the sky?
No, I don't. I think these are achievable.
Good.
Yeah, I definitely do. Thanks. All right. Is there any other business? Wait a minute. Let me see here. I think that's it. I had a couple announcements, but I guess we covered them. It sounds from what Diana said that Zoom will be available, or it's being considered anyway by the governor to be considered beyond the 31st of this month. However, how do you folks feel about having a live meeting next time?
Thank you for asking. This is Stephen. Depending on the date, I'm going to be away for about 10 days in the middle of April.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm looking at my calendar now.
I would also like to say, if the weather's nice, we might just meet at Conant.
Well, yes, we can. We can't film there, though.
Oh, that's true.
We might want to wait till May or June. I'm not going to say we shouldn't do that. It's a lovely thing to do, but
okay.
So we've been meeting on Thursday nights. We could do let's see here. Today's March 9th. What about if we did, I'm hesitating just because I'm remembering what Bridget said about their tight timeline. Looks like the Greenway Committee is meeting on, you just told us, on the 23rd.
23rd, yeah.
I think we should schedule a meeting for the 23rd before that at 6:00. Because if Kestrel needed something, I think we should at least have called that meeting. And it might be a very brief meeting, or we might even end up changing it. How does everybody feel about that? Do you mind, Janet, because you have the other meeting at 7?
No, I don't mind at all. I was just trying to look back at my notes. I have 4/8. April the 8th is her deadline, I think. No, that couldn't be true because that's a Saturday.
No, I think their deadline is like the 15th, like the middle of the month.
Okay, I'll have to go back with my notes. Okay. No, that's fine. I'll be at town hall. I just go to both meetings.
Yeah. How about you, Terry Ann and Ed? Are you okay with a meeting on the 23rd at 6 p.m. And we'll do it at the town hall?
Sure.
Cindy?
Yeah.
But let
Sounds
me
good.
interject.
What time?
6.
6.
Did you say something, Stephen? I'm sorry. I heard
Yes,
Ed.
yes, Stephen here. What I wrote down when Bridget was talking was April 18th deadline.
18.
Perfect. Thank you.
That was what the appraisals, that was the deadline for the appraisal letters
Yeah,
to go to
you're
the
right.
state.
You're right.
You know, I wrote the same thing down. Thanks, Stephen, reminding us. But let's go ahead and do March 23rd, 6 p.m.
Can we be through in an hour?
March 20. Okay.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks from now. March 23rd.
Thank you.
I guess we need to make sure someone else doesn't have a room.
I'll check with Lucy. Stephen, I think you were trying to say something and we were all garbling you.
I can do March 23rd. I could do April 23rd. I could not do April 19th.
April 23rd is a Sunday.
That's what I was wondering.
Whatever. March 23rd, I'm good. I got a little confused there.
And then maybe you can stay for the Greenway meeting afterward then, Stephen. If you want. You're muted.
We've got a meeting scheduled now for the 23rd of March at 6 p.m. at Town Hall. And I will confirm that it can be the second floor meeting room. If it's a conflict, we may end up in the break room or something like that, but we'll work out something on that. So I'll do that. All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? If there's no other. Yeah, and I think you said that. I could see your mouth going. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Thank you for attending. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.